Re-platforming is a major lift for most organizations. So, which are the top 10 e commerce platforms in 2025? That's what you need to know to be able to re platform successfully. That's what we have discussed in this video. So, let's start.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our number one priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sam Gupta. I'm principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the analyst and advisory consulting firm. We are independent vendor agnostic. We help companies with any sort of technology selection, change management, business transformation strategy. On that note, let's go back to today's topic, which is going to be top 10 e-commerce platforms in 2025. Before we look at the list, let's look at different variables that we have captured to rank this list, as well as how we compare these platforms. So some of the layers you might want to keep in mind when you look at these platforms. Number one is going to be B2B versus B2C. The platforms designed for B2B verticals are going to be very different. They are going to have capabilities such as your punch outs. Their customer master is going to be very complex, very different in general. For B2C verticals, they are going to have many different capabilities. But for the most part, we are looking at e-commerce here, and some of these e-commerce platforms might be tightly coupled with several other platforms depending upon the industry that they might be targeting, and we'll be touching on each of those as we discuss the individual options. So, price list, punch out, the ERP integrations is going to be a big topic in general for the B2B centric platforms. For B2C, you are looking at things such as your personalization, the kind of search capabilities that you are going to require for B2C are going to be very different. B2B in general have unique requirements such as the way you are going to show the price, account management, sometimes the customer portals are going to be equally relevant in the B2B spaces as well. B2C, not so much. For B2C, you might require many different payment platforms. So again, there are many different layers that are different for these platforms, and the platforms that are going to be designed for B2B may not be best fit for B2C. Some of them might be able to support many different business models, including B2B and B2C. The criteria that we generally use to compile this list is number one, product share, acquisition strategy, any sort of acquisitions that they have done. Was it more aligned towards B2B or B2C? If they have multiple products in their portfolio, they acquire this particular capability for their e-commerce portfolio or for something else. So we look at all of that: product roadmap, community, ecosystem, win rate, technology strategies, as well as the investors. These are some of the factors that we generally include with most of our list. So now let's look at the list. Number 10 on our list is WooCommerce WordPress. And generally, when you are going to find WooCommerce WordPress, in general, these brands are going to be very hobbyist. They are not necessarily professional brands. There might be cases where WooCommerce may be running for very large brands as well. But for the most part, if you look at the product design, the capabilities, WooCommerce is very limited in general. You are going to require many plugins, and sometimes because of the conflicts, you are going to run into so many different problems. In general, the reason why companies go for WooCommerce is because they don't appreciate the transactional pricing that Shopify or BigCommerce are going to have. And generally, they are trying to save some money. That's why they prefer WooCommerce. They are going to use terms such as your open source. So yes, you have that open source aspect with WooCommerce, but at the same time, you are going to be managing your own infrastructure. Sometimes that is favored by IT just because they like control. And with this, you are going to have control, but you may have several other problems. So some of the strengths that you're looking at from the WooCommerce perspective is number one, price, number two, open source, and number three, the whole content management aspect may be stronger. And the majority of the content centric sites, they generally use WordPress a lot just because it's a very strong CMS. It may not have as deep capabilities for commerce just because the kind of user architecture or the user security architecture that you have for WordPress or WooCommerce, that is not necessarily aligned with the commerce needs. That's why WooCommerce may not be as best fit for the commerce centric scenarios. But let's say if you are going to be a business that is very heavy on content, but maybe commerce is just very side business for you. Maybe you have some sort of courses, digital courses, you are simply publishing those. Sometimes in those cases, WooCommerce might make sense. But other than that, if you're running a serious business, then WooCommerce might not be the best e-commerce platform. Now, the limitations that you're looking at from the WooCommerce perspective is number one, it's probably going to be clunky. The whole user and permission management aspect that I just mentioned, that is going to be a problem as well. And plugin conflict is another problem. Data model is not necessarily aligned to the commerce capabilities. So that would be number 10. Number 9 on our list is Kibo Commerce. And Kibo Commerce is a new entrant, and it takes very interesting approach for commerce. Number one, they have integrated the OMS plus some of the omni-channel use cases, and they position themselves as more of the newer platform, which is going to be slightly more microservices based, but there could be debate around which one is headless, which one is Mac, as well as which is going to have the microservices capabilities. But for the most part, if you look at their marketing material, they are going to claim that they have the microservices capabilities. So you might want to do a little bit of research in that, whether the capabilities that you are looking for are going to be aligned with what they are offering. For the most part, they are, from our perspective at least, what they are able to offer is they are able to offer the middle of the ground approach, which is going to be that you are getting some sort of headless capabilities, but at the same time, you are not going to be investing as much in integration as you would when you are going to explore platforms such as your commerce tools, etc. So that could be one benefit. But in general, the kind of integrations or the suite that Kibo is going to have is still very limited. So the only thing they are doing is e-commerce plus OMS, even though that integration itself would be great. But then when you are going to look for other capabilities, for example, let's say if you are going to compare Kibo Commerce with other supply chain or retail sort of suites, which is going to be your Blue Yonder, Manhattan, they are also going to include your TMS, WMS, and generally you have very tight alignment with all of those capabilities as well. But in this case, you are going to get some integrated capabilities, but not everything. So some of the strengths to keep in mind when you review Kibo Commerce is the enterprise scalability. It is proven with very large logos. So that's going to be one of the strengths. And then you are also going to have the integrated OMS as well as e-commerce. So these two are embedded together as part of one suite. So at least you may not have to worry about the integration of these two pieces. But let's say if you're simply utilizing OMS from Kibo, but then e-commerce, maybe you are utilizing Shopify, then it may not be the best fit because you might not get the best of the both world, which is going to be the whole omnichannel integration of OMS plus e-commerce, which is what Kibo is offering. So as long as you can live with these three components from Kibo, then Kibo may be a great fit, but it might not be the best fit when you are sort of picking and choosing the components that Kibo is already providing. The other strength that Kibo has is the whole subscription commerce capabilities, and that itself is a big topic. In general, supporting those capabilities in any platform is going to be a heavier lift if that is not going to be supported natively. So Kibo is very well proven, at least for those use cases. So that's going to be a huge strength for them. Now, the limitations that you need to keep in mind are going to be the whole commerce solution is limited. Their ecosystem is going to be very limited as well compared to other leading vendors, Salesforce, Shopify, BigCommerce. They are going to have a lot more options from the MarTech perspective, shipping, payment sort of options. They are going to have far more. So those options may not be as available with Kibo, even though Kibo is very well adopted. They have a lot of different players in their ecosystem as well. The consulting base is going to be limited as well, even though they have several partners that they have signed. They work through a lot of different partners. They have their own professional services as well. But at the same time, it's not going to be as prevalent as some of the other leading vendors. The cost may be higher as well because it's a very enterprise solution. So if you are going to be in the SMB space, you might feel that is very expensive. So again, if you are going to be in that upper mid market enterprise, then Kibo would make sense. For SMB customers, it might be slightly heavier lift, at least from the pricing perspective. So that's number 9. Now, number 8 on our list is SAP Hybris Commerce. And SAP Hybris Commerce is ideal for customers that are going to be on SAP S/4HANA, just because you are going to find tighter alignment of all of the solutions that are going to be in the SAP's portfolio. SAP Hybris may be a great fit for some of the other use cases as well, where you care for the enterprise grade commerce platform. You also care for the enterprise grade workflow and security. Maybe you are in those regulated verticals. In those cases, SAP Hybris may still make sense. So the strengths that you're looking at from the SAP Hybris perspective is number 1, the integration and the alignment with some of the other SAP products. You are going to find a lot more synergy from the pricing perspective, from the cost perspective. They are probably going to give you a lot more discount in general when you are going to buy the same products from the same vendor. So that's going to be a plus for SAP Hybris Commerce. The other pluses that you're looking at, overall greater control on the infrastructure, just because it is a very enterprise grade platform and it has a lot more control built as part of the platform itself. So it's not going to be a simple app positioned for SMB verticals. In this particular case, you have a lot more flexibility, the kind of flexibility that enterprise sites are going to need. So you have that as a plus. The other advantage that you have with SAP Hybris Commerce is the deployment flexibility. So that is going to be based on wherever you want to deploy. So that's going to be a huge plus with SAP Hybris Commerce as well. Some of the limitations to keep in mind with SAP Hybris Commerce is they might not be as deep with their headless capabilities. Some of the newer vendors, if you look at their offerings, they are going to be written in the modern technologies, modern tech stack. SAP Hybris Commerce, even though they have re-architected at least their front-facing platform, but the backend might still be on legacy technologies. Sometimes developers don't appreciate that. So that's going to be a limitation. The interface is not going to be as easy to use as some of the, or it might not be as appealing as some of the other solutions that we have on the list. Again, that's a very legacy platform. They have re-architected a lot of the components, but still very legacy. And that's what some of the newer developers or the teams that care for slightly more modern platforms, they might not appreciate that. And obviously the legacy technology is probably going to be the third weakness that they have. So that's number 8. Now, number 7 on our list is HCL Commerce. And HCL Commerce is the same product that used to be called IBM Commerce. IBM sold it to HCL. So now HCL is carrying that product. For the most part, this is a very legacy product. But again, HCL has done a lot of work on top of that. So now if you look at the product, it is going to come across as modern. They have re-architected a lot of layers, at least the front end. So now from their perspective, at least, it is going to be a very headless platform. They can do a lot of things from the headless perspective, but again, the Mac community might not agree that the kind of platforms that are going to be there, from the Mac perspective, they are going to be slightly different. So ACL commerce may not qualify there because this is a legacy technology, very similar to your SAP Hybris, but at the same time, it's a great solution. It has a lot of capabilities built for the enterprise grade scenarios, especially in the B2C verticals. For example, let's say if you're going to be in automotive verticals, that's where it is adopted very well. There are many other verticals where it's proven very well, but for the most part, it is going to be heavily concentrated towards those B2C centric verticals. It may not have as deep B2B capabilities. So some of these trends to keep in mind when it comes to ACL commerce is headless content, workflow, and management. And then you are also going to have React-based storefront, just like SAP Hybris. This one might be slightly more developed based on the capabilities that they have developed after acquiring. And then it is going to be enterprise scale ready. They also have the whole DEM component, which is accessible through your API layer. So that's a huge plus. So those are some of these trends. Now, in terms of the weaknesses, you are looking at the legacy programming language as well as architecture. And then you are going to have limited B2B capabilities as well as CDP capabilities might be limited as well. But there are going to be many different options, external options that you will be able to find, again, depending upon what you are looking for. So those are some of the weaknesses. And that is number 7. Now, number 6 on our list is Server digital commerce platform. And now I believe they are called Optimizely. So for the most part, you are going to find Optimizely in very B2B industrial centric verticals. The kind of integrations that they are going to support, for the most part, they are integrated with the majority of the industrial B2B distribution centric ERP systems. Now, if you have to build these integrations, that could be a heavier lift. So a lot of systems, for example, let's say if you compare this with ACL Commerce, ACL Commerce is probably not going to have those integrations, and you have to develop this yourself. That could be a very heavy lift, and that's where Server Optimizely is going to be a great fit. Optimizely also takes a very unique approach with their platform, and that is going to be that they have the whole personalization layer built, and that's what Optimizely was known for. Server was the commerce package, and they got together, then they rebranded it as Optimizely. So you still have those capabilities when you are going to be in that A/B or multivariate testing. Then you are going to have these capabilities as part of the package. Overall, from the integration alignment perspective, the personalization capabilities, the testing capabilities, they don't matter as much, even if you are going to use an external tool, just because the capability is not as well integrated. There are 2 vendors in the market that take very similar approach for this. That is going to be Bloomreach as well as Optimizely. They have very similar packaging for their solution. And similarly, your Optimizely is going to have that as well. Bloomreach is positioned more for the B2C verticals. Optimizely is going to be primarily for B2B. But again, the packaging is very, very similar. So the strengths that you are going to have with Optimizely perspective is that they are also going to have CMS as part of the package. Sometimes the other platforms may not have that. And the whole digital experimentation platform, and then you are going to have very rich B2B features that might not be available with the other platforms. The limitations that you're looking at from the Optimizely perspective is the whole ecosystem is very limited, even though they have a lot of partners. But again, you are not going to find as many options as you might be able to find with some of the other options. And it might be too big for the smaller brands. So for the most part, it's a very heavy solution. And then it could be very expensive as well. So those are some of the limitations. And that's number 6. Now, number 5 on our list is Commerce Tools. And Commerce Tools is one of the most adopted platform if you're looking for the whole mark experience as well as head less experience. Now, depending upon what you are trying to accomplish, for example, let's say if you have very enterprise grade site, and for you, the scalability is the most important factor, then you are probably looking for a platform like this. Sometimes the monolithic platform that you are going to have, they don't scale as well. Costing is probably going to be a challenge as well. And the reason for that is because you are trying to scale all of these components together. So sometimes you are going to be paying a lot for your infrastructure cost. So that is going to be one of the advantages that you are going to have with commerce tools. The other advantages that you have is the whole best of breed aspect. If you are going to require many different capabilities, for example, in commerce, the search capabilities are going to be one of the most critical. And if you're looking for best of breed search, with some of the other platforms, they might not be able to support all of different options for search. And if your search is not working, for the most part, you are probably not going to get result from the commerce perspective as well. So that's where commerce tools really shines when you're looking for that best of breed architecture, at least at the enterprise grade level. That's where your commerce tools is going to be super beneficial. You are looking for consumer grade sites, and speed is going to be one of the factor. Then commerce tools is probably going to be a better fit as well. But obviously, it gets very expensive in general. It's not designed for the SMB centric verticals because they are going to be substantially limited with their budget, etc. So it might not be the best fit for them. Now, some of these trends to keep in mind for commerce tools is number one, they are true Mark platform. If you are for Mark, then commerce tools is probably going to be a leading choice for you. B2C friendly. They are far more adopted in the B2C verticals. They have launched some of the B2B capabilities as well, but for the most part, their major penetration is still going to be in those B2C centric vertical. And then the other benefits that you have is it is going to be enterprise scale. So those are some of these trends. Now, the weaknesses that you have is the whole limited head capabilities. So even though it is a very headless platform, some companies do care for at least some level of head capabilities. So their development cost is not going to be as high. If you care for that, then the head may be limited. But again, there are going to be many different options in their ecosystem that you should be able to utilize. So it's really not a major concern, but something to keep in mind if you care for that. The bundle offering that you might be able to find with some of the other solutions, it might not be as much, even though their ecosystem is going to be far more penetrated. What they are trying to do from their business model perspective is that they are trying to provide you as many options, just the way Salesforce works. Commerce tools works the same way as well. So the bundle offerings might be limited directly from the OEM, but again, you are going to find a lot more options in their ecosystem. And the B2B capabilities might not be as rich. So that's number 5. Number 4 on our list is Salesforce Commerce. And Salesforce Commerce is one of the most penetrated platform, at least from the enterprise perspective. And Salesforce is probably going to be a great fit when you are looking for that best of both options. You care for slightly more headless capabilities, but you don't need the whole Mark platform, or you might be limited on your implementation budget. You are not looking for very complex or expensive re-platforming. Then in those cases, your Salesforce Commerce might be a great fit. Salesforce Commerce is also going to be a great fit, especially if you have Salesforce CRM and many other solutions from the Salesforce portfolio perspective. Then also Salesforce Commerce is probably going to be a great fit. So some of these trends to keep in mind is number 1, ecosystem. Salesforce is one of the most penetrated ecosystem, at least from the CRM perspective. Now they are doing really good job. For example, recently, just a few days back, they have announced that they are probably going to be launching their own POS. So now they are moving into real retail capabilities. They had a lot of commerce capabilities. So they will have much richer capabilities from the commerce as well as from the retail perspective as well. So again, Salesforce is doing a lot of things from the ecosystem perspective. So that is something to be excited about. Then some of the other strengths that you need to keep in mind are going to be the enterprise grade capabilities. It's very well proven for the enterprise logos. So if you care for that, then Salesforce should be your option. And then you are also going to have the robust merchandising as well as product recommendation capabilities. Some of these smaller platforms may not have that built natively. It might not be part of the same package, and sometimes you might not get that experience as seamless as you would like, but Salesforce is going to have that. The limitations that you're looking for, from the Salesforce commerce perspective is number one, price. It's going to be very expensive. And then the headless as well as the mark capabilities. It's not true mark platform, but again, if you care for that. So the headless capabilities are there, but it's going to be slightly limited. It's not going to be as deep or as rich as some of the other platforms that we have on this list. And then it might not be the best fit for the smaller brands just because it's going to be expensive. The number of layers that you have from the implementation perspective, you will require a lot of consulting budget, implementation budget. So that's why for smaller brands, it might not be the best fit. So that's number 4. Number 3 on our list is Adobe Commerce or Magento. Now, Adobe Commerce is very well adopted among those enterprise as well as the mid-market logos as well. One of the advantages that you have with the Adobe Commerce is that they have both B2B and B2C capabilities. They are fairly baked with the platform as well. And then it is going to be aligned with other tools that Adobe is going to have in their portfolio. For example, Marketo is going to be one of the platforms. So if you use Marketo for your marketing automation, etc., then both of these products together are probably going to have far more synergy in general. Now, the strengths you need to keep in mind is you have very enterprise grade functionality. You can tailor the experience as you like, just because the backend that you have, it's a very enterprise grade platform. But at the same time, when you look at that, then you are looking at very expensive development. Sometimes the marketers don't like that because they have to go to development team all that time. So that's going to be a con. But overall, if you're looking for very scalable platform, then this could be a great fit. Some users argue that the whole ACO capabilities might not be as great because, again, it's a very legacy technology. It might be slightly slower compared to the modern platforms that might be re-architected for the newer web experience. So some people argue that SEO may not be the best on Adobe Commerce or Magento. So that is something to keep in mind. If that is going to be a priority for you, you might need to do a little bit more research. They also have the open source option, but again, the open source option is going to be limited. It does not have all of the capabilities that you are going to find with the enterprise version, but they have that. If you care for that, that's probably going to be a strength for you. And it's proven for large scale consumer focused website. They have a lot of logos where, especially in this particular segment, they are very well proven. So that's going to be a plus for them. Some of the limitations to keep in mind is the inflexibility of the platform. It's not going to be as modern. It's going to feel very rigid when you are going to use that, when you are going to implement, develop, etc. Developers don't like that. So that's going to be a limitation. Now, other limitations are going to be for business users, there might be a little friction because they are not able to change things as they would like. And there's going to be substantial delay overall when they are going to do any sort of feature request. And then that's going to go to your dev team, IT team, etc. So they don't appreciate that. So that's going to be a second limitation. It might be challenging for smaller brands. Again, it's a very large platform. So unless you are looking at very mid-market or the enterprise-centric workloads, that's where it's probably going to be a great fit. Otherwise, you are looking at BigCommerce or Shopify. They are probably better option for you. So that's number 3. Number 2 on our list is BigCommerce. And BigCommerce is ideal for any sort of B2B SMBs. It's a platform very well adopted, at least for the B2B centric verticals. But now Shopify has launched those capabilities as well. So a lot of those companies are probably going to move to Shopify. But BigCommerce it's very well adopted, very well penetrated. So it's probably going to be a second platform for the SMBs when they are going to be looking for any sort of commerce platform. Some of these trends to keep in mind from the BigCommerce perspective is it has deep capabilities for B2B use cases. It's very user-friendly. It's very comparable to Shopify overall from the platform perspective, from the capabilities perspective, as well as the pricing options are going to be slightly friendlier for the SMBs. It does not have as rigid transactional pricing the way Shopify is going to have. Sometimes people sort of appreciate that. So that's going to be another strength that you need to keep in mind. Weaknesses that you're looking at, it does not have all of those enterprise grade features that you're going to find with, let's say, Magento or Salesforce or Optimizely. BigCommerce does not have all of those. Not tailored for B2C centric experiences. So B2C verticals require very specific experiences. If you care for that, or if you are in that space, then you probably should be looking for something else. And then the whole GMV based pricing that you have, that might be slightly less appealing for the customers that might be price sensitive. They are looking for a platform that might charge based on user licenses. So sometimes that could be a con for BigCommerce as well. And that's number 2. Number 1 on our list is Shopify. And Shopify is generally the number 1 platform in general for SMBs. And now they have a lot of enterprise logos as well. Some of these trends to keep in mind from the Shopify perspective is it's simple for B2C brands. It's easiest to use, the kind of ecosystem you are going to have, the kind of integrations that are going to be supported. You are looking for minimal consulting cost, and that's what most companies appreciate. For the most part, the majority of the capabilities might be handled by the marketers, and just because of that speed, marketers generally appreciate Shopify. Now, other strengths that you need to keep in mind is omnichannel commerce does provide a lot of capabilities as part of its package, but then it's also going to have several different options. The majority of the options that you would need from the commerce perspective, they are probably going to be part of their ecosystem. They might not be as well integrated with other platforms. Shopify is generally the number 1 platform for most of the cutting edge technologies to be integrated with Shopify, and Shopify is committed in enabling that as well. So that's a huge plus for Shopify. The ecosystem is extremely vibrant as well. So those are some of these trends. The weaknesses that you're looking for from the Shopify perspective is the B2B capabilities, even though they are there, but again, they are not as developed as what you are going to find with the likes of your Optimizely. For example, let's say if you're looking for all of those complex ERP integrations, etc., that's where you will not have those capabilities here with Shopify, even though it's a great platform. The transaction fee is generally one of the biggest concern for the users who might be price sensitive. So that's going to be another weakness. And then enterprise grade features. It might not have all of those features that you are going to find with the enterprise platforms. So it's a great platform for SMB. It might be proven with a lot of different large logos as well. But again, they don't have as developed enterprise features as you are going to find with the enterprise grade platforms. And that's going to be your Salesforce, Adobe Commerce, SAP Hybris, etc. So that's number 1. Now, if you enjoyed this video, we are going to include an article that is going to have much deeper analysis as well as a report if you would like to download that. We publish these videos on a weekly basis. So you might want to hit subscribe button on the YouTube channel. This podcast is also available in the audio format on the platform of your choice. So check there, and you might want to subscribe there as well. And then if you have not checked our digital transformation report, we compile this research as well as the major list for each of the year as well as the quadrants. They are all available as part of the digital transformation report. So you might want to download that. On that note, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.